Welcome back to the Pulse Check podcast. We had a special episode on the year-end highlights with part 1, and now we go into part 2. So we are wrapping up 2025 with more conversations that mattered most. Game-changing trends, strategic moves, tech breakthroughs, and more highlights. So here are the highlights you can't miss. Why banks have not been able to faster disrupt themselves, the incumbent banks?
The bank function is ledger, and the core is a ledger. So until today is a ledger. It's the trust where the system of records, the information of the truth is there. So that prevents the whole institute as a bank to organizationally transform so easily, because there are barriers. Banks want to get much more innovation beyond their core business, which is banking activities, beyond even the wealth management or selling the product to the customers. For the banks, just like any other industry, they wanted to also becomes a urge to learn what their customers are looking for. Hence, you see the challenger banks, they have a list of the legacy, or they don't have. That's why they move so fast, because of just like any other industries, right? The reason why they can achieve the speed of innovation is they don't have this legacy behind them, but they still have the regulatory requirements to fulfill. They still have the compliancy. They still need to speed up their pen test. So those aspects are still there. The effort is still there. So it is a mindset shift rather than a technology impact. What I've experienced over the past few years is the case which slows down bank to innovate fast are actually internal transformations without connecting to the market, without learning what it is needed there. Does not necessarily mean you need to offer all kinds of innovative products out there. It's outside in instead of inside out. So you will rethink the steps that you may not want to replace core in the first instance. I'm not saying the replace core is bad approach. In some scenarios you do need, because there's a missing capability for the time being, and it's internal struggles of the process automations. There are many ways. But again, these are the business reasons. It's enforce you to plan things in a prioritized way.
Towards the scary world of AGI, maybe you can spread a bit light on where we are today and might be in the future. I know we probably don't have time to go into all kind of details, but just give an overview.
Place where we're at now, where AI agents are becoming very popular, and you see the AI labs initially launching a lot of these software coding agents, which are again commercially very viable and accessible, right? I think we're going to see similar AI agents in sales, marketing, lawyers, accountants, probably offered a lot by these AI labs directly to businesses and consumers. Because most people's jobs are not that complicated. They're mostly just messy, meaning there's a lot of like details everywhere. And once AI can get a sort of handle of that, I think that is AGI. And, as said, that's kind of a big topic, right? Because then that could go many different ways. It could go very smoothly in some sense, that this AI just stays as a sort of tool that we use, and more or less everything stays the same. Everybody's just more productive. And, companies are growing and economies are growing because everybody just gets done so much more, but you don't have this maybe like mass unemployment, etc. But this is also like looming in the background, is this question that, let's say, we've already seen some famous like entrepreneurs comment about this, some big CEOs in the US especially, that that like, do we need to keep hiring people for certain kinds of roles or not? So I think there's been some back and forth. It's not super clear that it's going to be one way or the other. And there could be some local pockets where we go one way and other places we go another. Again, your definition might be a little bit different. Some people might say AGI is here today. Some people might say it's never. But again, as sort of large distribution, we are entering that discussion in the next few years.
So let's drill down a bit into the AI capabilities you're leveraging. So how does this work?
So what we are doing is not new in the industry. It's basically we are taking the job of a consultant. So in Singapore, when I speak to various SME owners, at some point, they were working with a consultant. The consultant is doing the same thing, getting the financial data, getting their sales information, services, products, whatever they are doing, and in internal, some operational documents and whatnot. Do take a few weeks to do a research, and then after that come back with a 50 to 100 page PDF giving lots of recommendations. Weeks lost. And again, as a founder or owner or as an executive in a company, we have zero time to keep thinking about the same thing. AI is super fast. Takes massive amount of data. In less than 30 minutes, you get a full report. Now, this is where we want to be even better. I don't want to give you hundreds of recommendations, ask you to implement all 100. I'll just let you focus on the top 3. Does this make sense to you? Yes. Implement it. Now, once you implement, because we are connected to your systems, what's going to happen is that you don't even have to say that I have implemented this. Based on your data that is coming through, you'll be able to say you have picked up this item. Then we'll be able to see, is there any way to fine-tune further? So it's an ongoing like consultant.
So in terms of the city itself, how do you see it evolving, and also in its role as a global financial services hub?
Well, definitely this is a good point. It has been evolving, particularly in the past few years, quite a lot. Now, the one thing that's been quite consistent is that Hong Kong now is still number 3 in the world in terms of the international financial center status. Of course, after New York and London, the capital raised via IPO, Hong Kong is now back the number 1 spot in the world. Now, at the same time, we look at the asset management, and then people would often also equate to the wealth management market. So Hong Kong, again, is now, in fact, has been for a few years, according to the study from BCG, the Boston Consulting Group. Now we are sitting at number 2, largest cross-border wealth management center in the world, behind Switzerland. And of course, I think according to the same study, BCG is also projecting Hong Kong to surpass Switzerland in another 2 years' time. So that's why for a lot of asset managers, since there's so much wealth from the private investors, this is also another reason why they gravitate towards Hong Kong to set up their presence. Now, but at the same time, the fintechs, why are they also choosing Hong Kong as the entry point in Asia? Also for good reasons, because of the large number of financial institutions, right? The 160 plus banks, 160 plus insurance companies, like thousands of asset managers, wealth managers. You have the insurance brokers. If you add up all these, I would say B2B financial institutions, there are like thousands of them in a single city. So that's why from a BD standpoint, business development is very efficient to try to BD in a market like this, which is so condensed with FIs. So again, for fintechs that are serving B2B, it's a no-brainer to choose Hong Kong as a base.
What do you see as opportunity and maybe also major pitfalls when it comes to AI, Gen AI in general?
I've been writing about AI for almost a decade now. Been observing the technology, where it's going, and you and I both know it is not new, right? It's been around for quite a long time, and the concept of it started from the 1940s all the way to now. It's evolved. We've gone through multiple iterations of AI winters, AI summers. We got really excited about it, only to realize, wait a minute, the expectations were a little bit higher. We dialed it down, and the cycle goes. I think what's fascinating about where we are right now is if we go back and look at what transpired about 2.5 years ago, almost 3 now, when OpenAI released the beta version of ChatGPT. That was the first time that people have access to the technology. They could play with it. They can see the outcome. They can do things that they couldn't do before, right? Very different than in the old days. Oftentimes, the deployment of technology is in the back end. We can't really see it. And so when you have something that is available to the mass and they can see with their own eyes what they can do with it, it becomes a huge phenomenon. And all of a sudden, we're like, oh, wait, what else can we do with that? Now, that is the opportunity part of it. Can we do more with it? Can you get more people to adopt the technology and reimagine new ways of living and working? The other side of it is not magic, right? AI is not magic. Fundamentally speaking, the tool has generative AI. For example, there are a lot of things we can do with it, but there are also things that we really shouldn't be doing with it. For example, when the tool was first released, there were engineers that was feeding the code to the tool. And not knowing that, by doing so, you're releasing your private data into the open world. So I think knowing that, understanding what the tool can do, and be mindful of the guardrails that we need to put in place and know what it can and cannot do, it's important, and it's the pitfall.
There are different approaches that the different regulators are taking in US, Europe, and Asia. So what do you see from a pure regulatory AI?
Financial institutions and other organizations may have been using older versions of pre-Gen AI tools, whether it's robo-advisors or chatbots or what have you. But and you're right that the focus at the moment is on Gen AI. Interestingly, and you raised a very good point about the European Union AI Act. And the interesting thing about the Europeans is that they're once again setting the gold standard for regulation. That they set the gold standard when it came to privacy with their GDPR, and they're setting the gold standard again with the AI Act. And the interesting thing about the AI Act is it doesn't focus purely on Gen AI. In fact, their concept of AI is, I think, very clever, and it follows what the OECD is doing in terms of how the OECD treats AI, because they're not solely focusing on Gen AI and not building a definition of AI based on just Gen AI, which means that if AI adopts it again in the future, that's okay. The AI Act will still apply. Their concept of AI is you've got a system, an AI system that takes inputs and infers, and that's a key idea in the AI Act in Europe, is inference. The AI system infers and produces an outcome, whether it's a forecast, a prediction, a decision, based on such inference. And the basic concept of the European definition of AI is, look, it's a system where we're not following, which is generating its own rules based on the input data. It's not rules set by some human programmer, which is your chatbot or your robo-advisor, but a new set of rules that's being created by the AI system itself based on its input data. And that kind of concept of AI is what the Europeans would hope to be a future-proofed concept of AI that will stand the test of time. And as we move on from Gen AI, the AI Act in Europe will still continue to apply to AI in its future forms.
Can you summarize in just 1 or 2 sentences what socially responsible stands for, and the name, of course, gives already a bit of a view, but still very quickly, what is it, and why did you decide then to basically found this company?
Sure. So ultimately what we do is we develop technology products for donation and fundraising purposes, specifically for Hong Kong. So the idea is that, and for our key product, if you will, is an enterprise software. The idea is that you onboard your workforce and they can conduct various sort of charitable engagement initiatives via this product. So this is things like donating across various different charities. Typically, it would be sponsored to a degree by the enterprise itself. Employees can use either FPS or Visa to make payments to these charities. You can also vote for your favorite charities across of course, as I said, a number of different charities, and then a bucket of cash can be allocated across them on a sort of democratic basis. And then we also have fundraisers as well. And I think very importantly, just a couple of weeks ago, we for our charity, so we have a sister charity that licenses for free the technology product. Basically, we now have the tax exemption. So we are now able to issue tax-deductible receipts for users and then also for those enterprises as well. So we're aiming to be a kind of one-stop shop for charitable engagement. On the reason side, it was a number of years ago, I realized that there wasn't really a sort of seamless and easy way to donate in Hong Kong. For the enterprises, I think typically the model is that charities will be invited to some kind of pitch day where maybe 5 or 6 people in the organization on some kind of charities board will determine which charity they want to sponsor for a period of a year, maybe 2 years, 3 years. And we want to address that in a sense where we want to make it a more sort of grassroots movement in these enterprises. We want to get more people engaged with charitable donation across different companies.
Coming specifically more to also fintech, maybe the top fintech trends you see, be it in the UK and also in Asia, could be AI related or anything else you see and you want to share?
Yeah, I think for me with the fintech space, the one thing I've focused on for a lot of my career has been around the payment space. And that is where Asia is just ahead of the rest of the world. You look at how apps like WeChat Pay, Alipay have just taken over in terms of payments in China. Yeah. And across the region as well, there are so many. In South Korea, there's the apps, there's UPI in India. And when you look at it compared with the rest of the world, or the Western world, there is just not anything comparable at all. In the UK, for example, payment fintechs just don't exist, really. We will load our credit cards, debit cards onto our phones and use those to make payments. Because I think there is this really entrenched idea about using credit cards, debit cards as a payment method that actually it's more difficult for these kind of apps to penetrate into the British market at least. And then when you even look at like the US, the US is still very cash based, and there's that proliferation of checks as well, which doesn't exist in the UK anymore. Like I don't know anyone who's paid in a check for years, but it's still quite a big thing in the US. But I always think at least they have Venmo. They can send money to each other quite easily, whereas in the UK it's still very much on my mobile bank app, I still have to have all of my friends' bank details, and I have to text them and say, oh, is this still your bank number, and before I can send them money. So it's actually it's a lot more difficult, it's a lot clunkier, and I do feel like there is a space for something to really disrupt this in the UK at least, but so far nothing has really managed it. I think some of the banks have tried to do this, but it's often been between accounts within the bank, which if you can't go between banks, then you're really limited in who you can do this with. But when we talk about the West as well, though, I do think it's interesting that in some places it has managed to evolve, like in Brazil with Pix. That's really taken off there. And it's not something that I've ever covered in detail, but it's a very interesting thing that there are these pockets of innovation that are happening kind of outside of Asia, but it's not really reaching the level like we're seeing in this region.
Most of the time, the least developed in developing countries. An economy needs to reached a certain stage of development for its people to have the money to care about investing for the future, or like assuring the risk would not lead to some uncertainties to the future. So that's the concept of insurance, right? And therefore, even though Hong Kong has the one of the highest intensity of insurance penetration, a lot of the developing countries in this part of the world, in Asia, has not reached that stage yet. But it is reaching that stage. And as a result, Hong Kong can offer a lot of assistance to, first off, the ultra high net worth individuals in those countries. And secondly, as these countries developed their regulatory framework, as these countries developed their industry, Hong Kong can also offer assistance in that regard. So those would be the key highlights of Hong Kong's International Financial Center offering.
We all talk about AI when it comes to innovation, which is rapidly transforming the insurance value chain, all the way from underwriting to the claims process.
The artificial intelligence has been in existence for a very long time, but it hasn't been used popularly or commonly by financial institutions in the past. And however, in the last couple of years, especially in the DeepSeek moment earlier in 2025, we noticed that the power of AI can lead to much enhancement of efficiency and accuracy for the industry. And as a result, as you already mentioned, the insurance industry has adopted AI in a way or the other to enhance the process and accuracy and efficiency of the underwriting and claim procedures.
Those were the standout moments in 25. Thank you for following us. Your feedback, of course, is highly important to us, shapes our story. So please tell us topics you want to hear, approach us if you want to be on the podcast yourself. And with this, stay connected and happy holidays.